confirmed. I will start. If you are the OBS camera, you're checking this out. If you're live, you're seeing this now. Okay, great. So I will be doing this a lot more, especially through the month of July, just testing out the types of content we put out and create. And if you've been following our content, as you know, doing this stuff live and on the fly is actually preferred. I'm a lot more comfortable like this. So we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna go lighter on editing. A lot of the videos, we get a lot of feedback that our videos are super long. So I cannot promise you this video is gonna be short. My intention is to be very short and just answer a quick one-off question. So we do a lot of Mailbag Monday. And if you're not familiar with DeepBridge Consulting, what essentially happens is we will take a question from a member and we will just answer it on the spot. And yeah, there's no fees, there's no meeting, there's no scope, there's nothing. I'm just gonna answer your question. What happens behind the scenes is a follow-up. Of course, we do chat again, we do talk to you again to make sure you were able to implement and execute. If you have any questions, we clarify. But as it relates to like a full-blown project, no, there's nothing, there's no ties there, there's no strings, just you have to be a member. And we are just now rolling out our brand new membership. So all you have to do is sign up and then you can ask your question. So these are essentially just to go, I'm not going to be able to engage while I sit here and talk, but they're really just to capture and get more things going a lot quicker and get things up and posted. So this question actually comes from a brand new member. And the question is, what do I do? You know, I'm someone who's new to consulting. He's just got a new agency. He's done a few different things. And his question was, what are some of the things that I need to know when I run some of my campaigns? And he's not a newbie. This is not like these are not things that, you know, someone just off the street would do. He's saying, look, talk to me as if I've run a consulting agency. And so I did. And so I sat down and thought about it. And, you know, I kicked it around with our team, and I've got 3 things for you. If you're a new consultant, a new agency, whatever the case may be, whoever you are, if you're someone who's looking for not just, you know, beyond the basics, the 3 things are you watch your scope creep. You want to make sure you are keeping ROI in mind. And then another thing that's a little bit more execution based is going to be this idea of split checkout. And I'll get to all 3 of those things. But the first one's going to be your scope creep. And the first thing you want to think about when you're setting up a campaign is to make sure you set hard boundaries. Because as a consultant, the easy thing to do is let the client dictate the execution. Let the client tell you what they want, when in reality, the client, sure, they can have a say, but the client does not decide what they want. The client, absolutely, you are the expert. You should be telling the client what they want. Now, you are, in theory, designing your campaign objectives. Now, this is social media. This could be a social media campaign, just any paid ad. It works really well with Google Ads, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, anything with any sort of metrics where it requires some sort of conversion or engagement. So scope creep is huge. And when a client says, you know, I want all this, I want all that, and I want to make sure, you know, X, Y, and Z is accomplished. You want to make sure that you're aligning that not only with their objectives, you want to hear them out, you want to understand and be asking like very, very good sales questions, because at the end of the day, you have to understand what they're trying to accomplish. So your end goal is to understand their objective, the real objective, and then you tie the actual goals of the campaign to their objectives. Now, if their goal is to grow their business 50%, you either have to say, number 1, that's not realistic, or number 2, this is going to require a lot more money. Because if that's their goal, you're already at a loss, and you are going to start to hit scope creep. You're going to be working forever until you achieve something that was never possible to begin with. So the first bit is be very, very militant about the standards and the goals that you check off before the campaign begins. Make sure to align and talk to your client. Your client has to understand, look, okay, that's not possible. We're not talking about that right now. What we're going to accomplish and what we're going to go for is conversions. We're going to go for impressions. We're going to go for retention, signups. But it can't just be grow the business, because there's too many wild cards, which leads us directly into the next point. So that first one is watch your scope creep. And the way you beat scope creep, which is you agree to something and then all of a sudden a little bit more and a little bit more, it feels like it's never ending and you didn't really get the accomplishment. Scope creep is killed by clear metrics, and you need to agree and align and justify and explain them to your client. Pretend they don't understand anything. Because the second point You need to make sure that in most cases, and I'm going to say this vaguely, but in most cases, your the campaign goal should not be $1. It should not be to achieve X amount of dollars. And it shouldn't even really be units or sales, because there are, again, like we said before, there are so many wild cards that you don't control. Let's say you kill it. Let's say you kill it, and all of a sudden the client decided to divest in something that you were actually building up. They decided to pivot. Now you're left holding a bag of excrement. Like, you did a horrible job in your campaign technically, but it's not your fault. But when you tie campaign goals to things that are outside of your control, you find yourself in a lot of trouble. And that is why when you are working, so number one, make sure that you handle the scope creep. Number two, make sure that your ROI is not tied to $1. Now, what I would suggest is going to those conversions. Get as close a thing to possible as real time. This advertisement campaign was successful because X. And then what you do is the client's going to push back. What you have to do is you have to connect whatever your campaign objective is and show them why that actually matters and how it leads into their sales. But that you have to explain to them, and you can do it a lot of different ways, but you have to explain to them that I cannot tie sales to this, because if you go out and you spend a lot more money and whatever, and research, they could do a lot of things that this outside of your control, which, maybe you're working with an entrepreneur, or maybe you're working with a startup and they get hit, they didn't end up getting their Series B or something, or an entrepreneur just gets lazy and they don't do their end of the work. And now all of a sudden you're trying to, for instance, if you're putting a campaign on social posts and your client is not posting, they're not writing any content, but then all of a sudden you're trying to convert on stale content. So the point is, don't connect it to something that's beyond your control. And almost always sales is going to be beyond your control. You have to back into that and reverse engineer the thing that makes the most intuitive sense. But sales is not something that you want to be tying your metric to if it's for a client that in particular you don't really know. Now, if you know the client, if you're comfortable with the client, you can get in there. A lot of times you don't see the real dollar amounts. So if you have a good relationship, you can actually go in and see their booking. You can see their books, you can see their account, you can see everything. Then maybe it's a better call. But it's something to think about is, the ROI, the return should not be necessarily tied to $1 unless you can have a lot more control in the setup in the entire business. So most of the times that's not the case. So what you do is, oh, Nick, that's great. I'm glad you feel that way, but it does protect you. But the client's going to push back. And what you do is you connect whatever your conversion. And then you say, look, if we actually set it up like this, if we run the ad and we push the ad instead of to your website, to this content, to this blog, then we can control that narrative. We can tell a longer story that's more precise, that's more customized to that qualified lead. And then we'll see who converts there. We know that there's about a 50% chance that anyone who reads this 1,000-word blog, they're going to convert the sale. And that's how you start to reverse engineer value. But you have to have a conversation about a value if you start to remove this idea of sales. And even if you're able to hit a sales number, it protects you a lot more if you get outside of things you can't control. So the third thing, which leads, is a great segue when we talk about this idea of pushing into a customized piece of content. The third thing is you need to start splitting your conversions. So let's say you do get conversions and you take them all the way through to purchase, and you have something you're selling. It's not just a service. Let's say you're selling a widget. You're selling a shirt. If your advertising campaign is to measure the conversions of that shirt, so the first recommendation, or my recommendation, would be going back to number 2, which is don't tie it to dollars, tie it to people who actually clicked the ad and went through, because everything that happens, there's a lot of things. What if their copy sucks on their website? So there's a lot of things you can't control, but let's all pretend you could. If you got it to the actual sale of the shirt, split your payment, split the process. So number 1, collect the information. Number 2, take it to what's their credit card. The one thing that people forget a lot of is that there's the abandoned cart rate is huge. People start to buy something and then they back out all the time. It's too slow. They get cold feet. They all of a sudden just got confused. They don't understand. They don't know who to ask. They didn't really want this to begin with. And so, or they're not ready to buy. It's almost always that they're not ready to buy. Now, why they're not ready to buy, if it's a conversation about value or if it's something that you didn't explain, it's your value proposition. But there could be a lot of reasons why someone's not ready to buy. But if you have their information, you can follow up. And a great way to do that is just you could do some remarketing campaigns. But an even more powerful way to do that is through email marketing campaigns. Now I'm actually going to be completing here soon here at DeepBridge Consulting our email marketing course. We're huge on ConvertKit. We think it gives you the most amount of capabilities and the most technical sequencing possible for anyone who loves copywriting. And if you don't like copywriting, obviously we walk through that with our clients, but it is the most in-depth, most technical approach to email marketing sequences. So we go through ConvertKit, and we actually can show you how to do that. But if you have their emails, instead of just a remarketing campaign, even more valuable would be an email marketing campaign. And you start to go hard on your segmentation. So if someone clicks something, then you can tag them as someone who clicked shirt X. And then say shirt X is all about inspiration or something. But then you also sell a shirt it's all about, I don't know, travel. You don't want to be you don't want to be telling email marketing stores like, hey, you could say, hey, we just launched a new shirt, and people in the motivation section will be like, this is about travel. And the people in the travel section, if your promotion or your new launch is about motivation, they'll be confused too. But with some sort of segmentation software like ConvertKit, your email marketing campaigns, you can tell two distinct stories through automation and sequencing. So that's why we like ConvertKit, and that's why it gets really powerful when you split checkout. Most people are not going to actually finish the checkout. You can get their information, and the people that buy that go ahead and buy, that's great. Let them obviously go and do that and follow up, make sure your nurture sequences are great. But then you begin a whole new nurture sequence with the people who didn't complete the booking. And I know you've gotten those before, right? So you look at something, you don't actually sign up. Maybe you didn't even begin or initiate some sort of sales process, but you get hit with, well, hey, I saw you check this out. What happened? Can I answer any questions? And that's just email marketing. That's not someone actually seeing you. And it's really, really, really powerful. It gets people to buy all the time. And it's also just really good practice to go ahead and write that copy, a really specific copy. Hey, I saw you're on this page. And then you start to understand your ideal customers who clicked a shirt about inspiration. You could talk about an inspirational thing. And all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier. Your sales cycle gets a lot shorter, and your conversions skyrocket. So those are the three things to remember. We'll cut it there. You've got scope creep. You've got, so control your scope. And the way you control your scope is to make sure you are very clear about the objectives and that they're not outside of what you can control, which goes into the next thing. Try, if you can, not to make the objective and the ROI based on the actual specific dollars that the campaign generates, because there's a lot of things that are outside of your control, like website copy. Like what if they just have no website period? There's a lot of things. So try to make it about conversions or about signups or downloads, and then reverse engineer the value and say, look, for every conversion, while we're not actually tying this to $1, we know that there's about 50% conversion, and make sure the client is agreeing with that number. So then you can have real conversations about what this is generating, but it's agnostic to whatever's happening with the business that you can't control. The client has a bad week, the client's on vacation, the client removes their attention from whatever you're actually selling. All of that dilutes your ability to sell and convert. And so it actually makes your job a lot harder, almost impossible sometimes. So make sure you are taking that ROI off of dollars if you can. And then number 3 is split checkouts. Try to get the information, the personal information, and make it very seamless. There's a lot of examples out there, but if it's just, hey, what's your name, what's your email, and then step 2. So you do it in multiple steps. Step 3 would be next steps or confirmation or go confirm your email, that's a really good piece of advice. Also, that's for another day, but confirmation email, it trains your clients to look for you in their inbox. So that's the bonus tip. But those are the 3 things to focus on when you look at your new campaigns. And a little bit, I'm not saying this is like expert level advice, but I am saying the things that are above and beyond what someone who's just going on and just now learning how to do this. If you're a consultant or an agency, let me know what you think of those things. Have you tried them? Have you tried ConvertKit? I've noticed it's, there's MailChimp. There's a lot of things that people try before ConvertKit, but especially as we finish this course, is there anything that you wish you knew about ConvertKit? Is there anything you wish you knew about email marketing? And I'll shoot you over a link to the course for free if you give us some feedback and help us design that for some co-creation. So thanks for checking this out. We'll do some more content like this. We'll do a lot more content like this if you enjoyed it, and we'll just watch the metrics to see. But otherwise, hopefully that was helpful. Those 3 things: scope creep, don't tie ROI to dollars, and try to split your checkout. If you go ahead and apply those things, you'll start to at least have a better experience with your ad campaigns and start to enjoy it a little bit more. So if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out, NickWilliams@DeepBridgeConsulting.com. Otherwise, go check out our YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Our brand new website will be launching later this week. hopefully around the 4th of July. I'm praying, but we'll see. No promises, but I'd like to say we're going to bust our butts to get it done. So we'll see you guys here soon, and thanks a lot, guys. If only I could figure out how to end a live YouTube video. Act like I've done this before, right? All right, see you guys.